Either we heal as a team, or we're going to crumble. Inch by inch, play by play, till we're finished. We're in hell right now, gentlemen. Believe me. And we can stay here, get the shit kicked out of us, or we can fight our way back into the light. We can climb out of hell. 1 inch at a time. You know, when you get old in life, things get taken from you. I mean, that's part of life. But you only learn that when you start losing stuff. You find out life's this game of inches. So is football. Because in either game, life or football, the margin for error is so small. I mean, 1/2 a step too late or too early, and you don't quite make it. 1/2 second too slow, too fast, you don't quite catch it. The inches we need are everywhere around us. They're in every break of the game, every minute, every second. On this team, we fight for that inch. On this team, we tear ourselves and everyone else around us to pieces for that inch. We claw our fingernails for that inch. Because we know when we add up all those inches, that's going to make the fucking difference between winning and losing. Between living and dying. I'll tell you this, in any fight, it's the guy who's willing to die who's going to win that inch. And I know if I'm going to have any life anymore, it's because I'm still willing to fight and die for that inch. Because that's what living is. There's 6 inches in front of your face. Now I can't make you do it. You got to look at the guy next to you. Look into his eyes. Now I think you're going to see a guy who will go that inch with you. You're going to see a guy who will sacrifice himself for this team because he knows when it comes down to it, you're going to do the same for him. That's the team, gentlemen. And either we heal now as a team, or we will die as individuals.
Ideas are bulletproof.
Welcome to another live edition of Down the Rabbit Hole, ladies and gentlemen. It is March 9th, 2012. I'm your host, Popeye from FederalJack.com. And joining me this evening is a frequent guest to my program. Somebody who tonight you'll be able to hear how the past 6 months of what him and I have been talking about is going to be proven correct. Our speculations, the past couple episodes that he's been on, the things we've gone over regarding Lulzsec, Anonymous, hacking, false flag hack attacks, and the such. So I'd like to welcome my guest back to the program today, Mr. Winston Smith. Winston, how are you, buddy?
Doing good. Thanks for having me on.
Okay. Let me ask you something. I want to get right into it. You were talking to me off air. We were getting into the whole Anonymous versus the FBI. Well, I should say Anonymous / Lulzsec versus the FBI. And you were telling me that, obviously we had a rather long conversation about it, but to put it all in a nutshell, you had said pretty much that the last 6 months of the things we've been working on with, this, trying to shed some light on this and bring this to people's attention, say, hey, look, this is what they plan on doing, and they're going to blame all these kids, and they're going to bring them down, they're going to arrest them, blah, 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 blah. We've kind of been on point, have we not? Because look what happened. This guy, Sabu, came in, and he ended up being, I guess he was in charge of Lulzsec, and then he ended up being an FBI informant. I'm not too familiar with the details of the case, and I know many of the listeners aren't as well, and you being the hacker, you know quite the bit of info on this. So I'm just going to give you the floor and tell everybody a little bit about Sabu, and then what happened with Anonymous, the reality of what happened with Anonymous and Lulzsec, and then after we cover that, we can get into whatever. But let's go into that first. Who is Sabu, and how did he take down the leaders of Anonymous and Lulzsec?
Well, basically, Sabu had been one of the operators on the Anonymous IRC channel for quite some time, and he seemed to kind of been one of the one of the main media talking pieces, and one of the more vocal Twitter accounts for Lulzsec and Anonymous. And for the most part, he seemed to be fairly skilled in identifying vulnerabilities, or at least, even more than identifying vulnerabilities, seemed to be more skilled in rounding up participants and broadcasting Twitter messages. Some people have speculated that multiple people would share the handle Sabu, and then the person who ended up getting arrested was the person who ended up getting arrested was just one of those individuals. But the way it ended up getting what ended up happening is Sabu was a participant in Anonymous for quite some time. He wasn't always an FBI informant. But what ended up happening with Lulzsec sometime around 6 months ago, after the first wave of arrests, he was arrested, and he was charged with a number of computer crimes, federal computer crimes, and what he ended up
so he was picked up by them in like their first wave of attacks, and then they turned him.
Correct. He his excuse is that he had children, and he didn't want to go to jail for the number of time that he was being threatened with prison time for. So he ended up taking a cooperation deal and acting as an informant on the entire Lulzsec Anonymous movement, and getting a whole bunch of other seemingly much more talented people arrested for basically doing the dirty work. And it looks like we had predicted before, when all this was getting a whole bunch of mainstream media attention, we're wondering why all this was taking place. That was around the time that Sabu had turned FBI informant. And even though he was acting as an informant, there's still the large attacks on corporations going forward, where he was at the where he was still a big proponent mouthpiece for it, even if he wasn't actively participating in attacks. So at the end of the day, it was an FBI informant who was coordinating a lot of the Lulzsec activity, and he ended up being arrested with the large swoop of them. But Lulzsec was definitely coordinated by an FBI informant, and much of the attacks can be categorized as I guess government backed, because when they're taking place, the FBI was well aware of them and was simply collecting intelligence on participants at the time.
They just took, I believe it was Anonymous, not Lulzsec, but they took down the FBI website, which just is the DDoS attack, which really isn't anything, but not like the FBI would have anything of value on their website. It's not like they're going to have state secrets hidden on there, but it's interesting that when that was taken down, this kid was the informant to the FBI, so it makes one wonder if the FBI said, yeah, take this site, and this site down, we don't care. We'll, on the back end, we'll know what it is, but it'll give you some credibility. They do things like that. So
they're basically running as a big honey. Yeah, it'd be a big honey trap operation, or a big honey pot where they're just collecting intelligence on attackers and participants.
Oh, that's I didn't even think of it like that. That's a good point.
When you read the indictments, you find it turns out that Sabu ended up getting arrested because he would use a lot of stolen credit cards to pay his own bills, and he would have stolen merchandise sent to his house, and he made a number of mistakes that were able to correlate his identity, and that's one of the main things that show how he got burned in the indictment. What was real interesting is how the FBI is also using their new paint. Not really new; it's been around for quite some time, but they're openly talking about it in public indictments now. Is their pen trace trap and trace equipment for wireless computers now. They describe in detail in the indictment how they set up devices in the proximity of anonymous suspects' home to capture the MAC addresses and the wireless cards and the MAC addresses of the wireless cards and the routers that they're connected to within their home, and then correlating that with the information from the ISP as to what websites they're connecting out to. And they were under surveillance, extensive surveillance for quite some time.
Is that how they were nailing some of these people?
That's how the majority of them were. They were being heavily tracked, mostly because of how local and active they were being. One of the people who were arrested has a long history of being an activist since the 2004 Republican National Convention. And
Winston, I'm going to cut you off right there because the bumper music's coming up. So I'm going to cut you off right there. I'm going to have you pick up on the other side of the break. Ladies and gentlemen, stay tuned. Don't go anywhere. More on Anonymous, Lulzsec, the FBI, and the Internet. We'll be right back. All right, Winston. Getting back into it. So, in a nutshell, basically, this guy, Sabu, got arrested. They turned him. They sent him back out. And in return, he was reporting on people. How is he feeding information? Do you guys have any clue how he was feeding information about people, and if there was anybody else that he was able to turn and get involved? Because I know, eventually it ends up going to white hat, black hat. So was he able to turn anybody else? Have they found out that there's any other, quote unquote traitors in their midst? What's going on? What's the deal that you know of? We might have lost him, ladies and gentlemen. I'll try to bring him back on. Not a big deal. It happens once in a while. He comes to us from Winston tries to remain off the grid as much as he can, aside from being attached to the internet when he needs to get on and off. And he's out in a horrible area, as it were, for cell phone coverage. So sometimes it's not the easy. That's why when he comes on the show, he's always on his cell phone. And at times he is. Let me see if we can get him back on the program here. But at times he's out in a dead zone, and you can't get him on. So let's see if we can get him back on.
Hello?
Winston, you with us?
Greetings.
Okay, cool. All right, we're back. All right, ladies and gentlemen, no big deal. Technical snafus, it happens. So getting back into it, with Anonymous, we were discussing how this kid Sabu got arrested and they turned him. How long was he a snitch? And how deep does it go? Do you know of anybody? Do they think he turned anybody else? I mean, do they think the media is running around saying that Anonymous is now dead and that the FBI saying they headed the Hydra? Is this true, or is this all just sword rattling?
Well, the concept of Anonymous doesn't rest it with one person. Sabu was a snitch for about 6 months. That's how long he was a cooperating informant with the FBI. And that was about from June of last year till recently when it was publicly revealed. The only stuff it really implicates is stuff from the Lulzsec group and from several campaigns from the Anonymous campaigns. So several campaigns from Anonymous. And that doesn't necessarily mean Anonymous itself is dead, because the concept of Anonymous it's a decentralized group. All this means is that the next group of people will can start up and say that they are anonymous and they start heading up their own attacks and branding it with that label. I don't think we're going to be seeing it coming from the United States necessarily, because that's where a lot of Interpol did arrests in Europe and the FBI did arrests in the United States. I think a lot of the next waves of anonymous groups are going to be coming out of the Middle East and South America, because they have more lax enforcement when it comes to cyber law enforcement, and they're and within the last few months, there's been a real heavy increase in in South American hacking groups and Middle Eastern hacking groups, branding their crews with the anonymous logos and the anonymous hacktivism mantra of anti-globalization, anti-New World Order type stuff, and that's cool. I think that's a positive thing.
But do you think? What do you think of the quote unquote? Let's say the past 6 months. Do you think these attacks have been run somewhat by the FBI or guided? Maybe these government websites that got taken down, the FBI site, the CIA, all these other sites. Do you think maybe that was guided along, perhaps?
Yes, any anonymous operation from the last 6 months can definitely be considered suspect. And also, when you look at a lot of the earlier campaigns, they're revealing publicly that Sabu was an informant since July. But when you look at a lot of the previous anonymous campaigns, like Operation Tunisia, and a lot of during the whole Arab Spring thing, there's a lot of active participation from American anonymous participants attacking Middle Eastern government websites in assistance of the Arab Spring, which was just a big State Department-run operation. So I would say it goes as far back as that, and they just became criminal informants to the FBI once they got caught doing things they weren't supposed to do. And but one of the anonymous participants that got arrested was actually he has a history of legitimate activism dating back to the 2004 Republican National Convention. He was detained there, and he was arrested in 2006 for tearing down an Olympic banner in Chicago and burning it. And he was when you look at his history, he actually seems like a pretty cool guy. Actually, he seems to his activism seems to be in the right place, and he's one of the people who got burned by Sabu when acting as an informant. There seems to be a lot of legitimate, well-placed anarchist, activist.
Like we talked about, like we predicted, and that's what I meant with the first segment with what I said. That you and I predicted this. We talked about this. Right. We said that they were going to burn people. They were going to pull some. They were going to pull some stuff, whether it be a false flag attack or whatever, even minute or massive, and then set people up. And they were going to blame some, young kids, older people. Doesn't matter. They were going to be patsies that were going to get blamed, and it's exactly what's going on.
Yeah, and thankfully they didn't try to pull the big one, like we talked about, with some kind of big SCADA system attack. But I still predict that's coming. That's on the way. They're just not going to brand it with this particular brand of Lulz. When they do prepare to do one of those large scale attacks on the infrastructure and blame it on hackers, they're not. People aren't going to buy that it was Lulzsec because there's no motivation there. It's going to have to be some kind of politically motivated. Lulzsec is a political organization, but they don't, it wouldn't go to that extreme. But I do predict that the worst of government-sponsored internet-based attacks is yet to come, and this is just one, and this just goes to show the perfect example as to how they do things. What the modus operandi is, where they'll get informants and they'll have informants do their dirty work that serves their political agendas, and then at the end they burn everybody and call it a day and move on to the next project.
Well, we got about a minute before we go into break. Would you, what advice would you give to anybody, any anonymous members that may listen, any of these young hackers out there? What advice would you give? Would you say not to get involved in this type of stuff at all?
I wouldn't say don't get involved at all. There's a lot of good that can be done. Just don't stay off the anonops.li network. That's just a big honeypot. If you're joining anonops.li, know that everything is being logged. Proxy up real good. Don't trust your proxy providers. Don't trust your VPN providers. Do your research on who those providers are. Don't actually connect to anything from your house. If you really want to do some legitimate hacktivism and you want to brand it with anonymous, do it on your own. Don't join in on those honeypot networks where everything's being tracked and traced.
You see, I wouldn't have even thought to.
Don't do that all. But don't do anything illegal because you know that's bad.
Well, yeah, you wouldn't want to do anything legal, but I wouldn't have even thought about the fact that those things are honeypots. You know, that's why I have you on, Winston, because you're the smart hacker. You know what you're talking about. All right, ladies and gentlemen, stay tuned. We're going to break. We will be right back. Ladies and gentlemen, we are back. Tonight I'm hanging out with my good friend and regular contributor to the program, Winston Smith. And apologize for any audio issues. We've, like I said, Winston's out in the middle of nowhere, so he's kind enough to join us when he does. He reattaches himself to the internet. Otherwise, he's completely off the grid. So let's get back into it. Winston, Anonymous, Lulzsec, they've been infiltrated at the very least by people like Sabu, and I'm sure he's not the only one. So obviously, you shouldn't be getting involved in quote unquote. We wouldn't advise anybody to get involved in anything illegal to begin with. But if somebody wants to be a hacktivist, are there any positive groups that they can go join? Is there something that won't lead them to the clink, and maybe will lead them and let them get their foot in the door so they can understand what's really going on behind the scenes? Because I'm not saying that all Anonymous is bad. I just don't want to see anybody that partakes in it with good intention trying to take down the New World Order or these globalist douchebags. I don't want to see any of them go to jail and get used by the very system they're trying to fight. So I like to bring solutions. And there's a few other things I want to get into in regards to Anonymous and Lulzsec, but I want to spend a few minutes on some sort of solution. So are there any good groups out there that you could at least point somebody, a young budding hacker who wants to get involved and be a quote-unquote hacktivist? Where should they look?
There really aren't that many good options that they're looking to avoid. The type of if you're looking to avoid criminal activity and the type of activity that Lulzsec was involved in, there's not really any groups that aren't going to get them into any trouble. And if they want to do some legitimate, if they want to get into legitimate hacktivist, legitimate hacktivist scene, they should probably check out their local hacker spaces in whatever town they're in, and just kind of meet up with like-minded people and maybe end up forming their own groups. And my advice would be to check out their local hacker spaces there if they exist in every single city. To find like-minded, tech-savvy individuals and get together, form your own groups, put together your own websites, create your own ways to spread information, and use the skills, use hacking skills to develop tools that spread information, instead of developing attack tools which are already a dime a dozen. An effective tools that disseminate information to the right places, and even using anonymous techniques of media manipulation to spread a message. That would be that's a positive technique that can be applied. Again, just to reiterate, if someone's looking to legitimately get into hacktivism, they would be best to seek out their local hacker space and meet like-minded people and start forming their own groups.
And just don't get involved in quote-unquote Anonymous or Lulzsec or anything like that at all. Okay.
Right. Once a group gets to that level of public attention, it's not long for the world. It's best, things work best in the world of hackers with small groups that work quickly and understand. Just like in real life and real actual warfare. Small attacks, small bands of people attacking a large monolith and disbanding into the mist. Guerrilla warfare, but it's just done on the internet. So it's fun.
All right, now. I got a question about Anonymous right now, where they stand. I know you said there's no leadership level. There's no, the FBI could say they cut the head off the snake or whatever. And I know Anonymous likes to say they're like a hydra and they'll just grow more heads and all this other stuff. But in reality, if there are certain key individuals arrested, yes, it won't stop them. It'll slow them down for a time period until they could bring someone new in there to fill that position. But building that trust and everything in a person, that takes some time, so it's not something that can be done overnight. And I know every Friday they usually take down websites, and they've been a little slow since the whole arrest thing. So has this latest action by the FBI and with the help of Sabu and whoever else they turned, has this really had an operational effect on Anonymous?
On its current incarnation, absolutely. The actual real skilled hackers within the Anon Ops, specifically the Anon Ops Hacking Collective, which is the group that Sabu and all of them are part of. There were only I'd say less than a dozen actual skilled hackers, and the rest were just kind of people who would assist them. And this current wave of arrests did take out a significant chunk, if not all of them. But there will continue to be more. More will come around. The ones who, the new people who might have joined up and aren't as skilled now, and didn't get caught, might train themselves up to a level of skill where they can do the same types of things, and that maybe they'll do it in such a way that they get caught just the same. But the cycle is going to be perpetual, and these waves of hackers are just going to continue to accelerate. And again, like I stated earlier before the break, there's going to be a large wave coming from South America and the Middle East as well, because a lot of them are starting to adopt the anonymous culture.
So is that your next prediction, that the next wave of quote-unquote hacktivists and anonymous are going to be from the Middle East? Now, it's interesting that you say that.
And South America.
Oh, and South America. And it's interesting that you say that because the Pentagon's theory on cyber war, right? I told you this off air. You and I were having this discussion, and I told you the Pentagon has a theory for how they deal with cyber war now. This is their doctrine. They will trade real bombs for virtual ones, they said. So what happens if they pull off something and, quote-unquote, we'll say that one of the intelligence agencies through like the CIA, through one of their other, maybe the Saudi intelligence, Jordanian intelligence, whatever, kind of like 9/11, using them as proxies to pull stuff off. So it's just too many shadows to chase, too many things. People end up in circles, red herrings, everything. It serves to cover the trail later on to do it that way too. But they end up conveniently finding out it's some hacker in Saudi Arabia, or in Argentina, or where Chavez is. What is it, Brazil, or wherever the hell he's the president. They pick a country and they say, oh, look, this hacker attacked whatever government site, whatever, caused, whatever power grid to go down, which, as you said before, shouldn't be possible. But now they're putting all this crap, like they're making televisions and all this other stuff. They're making it self-aware and putting, your washing machine, your dishwasher, and all this other stuff. They're making it so it has an operating system, so now it can be hacked. When in the back in the day, it couldn't be hacked. Do you see anything happening within, let's say, the next 6 months? Do you see anything major happening? Do you see them pulling anything off, or do you see them continuing with this prodding of this more low-level type crap? We got about a minute and a half, so go ahead.
I don't predict anything catastrophic within the next 6 months. I think we're going to continue to see more of these low-level prods and more of a build-up to something. There's more media attention being brought to hacktivism. And it'll be sometime later on that they'll try to pull something large. But who knows? The elections are coming up, so the people get panicky, and the people in power get panicky and try to overplay their hands.
Like an October surprise type thing. See, I don't think that they would pull something major yet. I don't think they're done prodding and poking with little attacks like this stuff.
Yeah, neither do I. I don't think the general population understands what's going on enough to be able to well, actually, maybe that's the perfect time, because it's enough in the public consciousness that they have a bit of an understanding as to what it is, and just not the just not to how it works, or why it's there. Sort of the way America felt about Muslims and Islam in 2001.
Very true. Very true. Very ignorant about certain things, knowing just enough to make it mysterious and spooky.
It's there, and it's a threat somehow.
Yeah, and because people fear the unknown, and they look at it, and they go, well, I trust the media, and then the media puts that spooky spin on it, and everybody's a freaking terrorist, and the next thing you know, you're dropping bombs on someone's house in some foreign country, or now our own, because we have the NDAA, and the president says it's okay to kill people, and Eric Holder says it's cool to kill people, and what's his name, Mueller, whatever the frig his name is, the head of the FBI, he says it's okay to kill people in the country. So, all right, ladies and gentlemen, we are back. Final segment of the first hour. Final segment with Winston. Winston, I want to thank you again, buddy, for coming on, and I know that you're disconnected from the grid out there in the middle of Nowheresville, and you only connect when you need to. So I appreciate you coming in, hacking into the matrix, as it were, to speak with us tonight. And there's a few things that you wanted to get, you wanted to talk about and get on air before you had to go. So we got about 9.5 minutes here in the final segment. So it's all yours. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to reiterate that these types of patterns of law enforcement are very typical, and it's important to just watch how the FBI made these arrests, and turned their informants, and we're going to continue to see these types of these types of things go on, and there's actually never been a hacker that's taken the case all the way to trial. There's a few cases now where various people accused of computer crimes are still pleading not guilty and in the process of taking it all the way to trial. But there's never actually been a federal computer crime trial by jury where these high-profile hack attacks have gone all the way to a jury trial. Every hacker is always taking a plea deal, and it'll be interesting to see where these anonymous arrests go. Are any of these guys going to take? Are they going to take their cases to trial, or are they going to take plea deals? My prediction is most of them, if not all of them, will take plea deals, because that is what that's the federal prosecutors, they have a 98% conviction rate. Success rate, but that also includes their plea bargains, and that seems to be what the majority of where they funnel everything, because it's easier to just take it and not fight it. Where like Sabu was allegedly facing over 130 years for all his charges. Several life sentences for his compounded crimes, which only took place on a computer and impacted just companies and governments. No real people were affected. Other than that, it'll be interesting to watch. It'll be interesting to see where this all goes.
Well, see, they do that. They blackmail these people. They hit them with this, draconian sentences. And they know that this guy's, maybe he really does have a kid and a wife, and he's just,
No, he does. He definitely does.
Well, see, there you go. So he really has a kid and a wife, and he's just getting into this so he can, that's his form of activism. Let's say that's why he originally got involved. And then he got nailed, and that's how they get people to turn. They come down on him so hard, they scare the crap out of him, that they make the person feel that that's their only way out. And time again, it ends up being really bad. Let me ask you this in the last few minutes. How did it come out that he was the informant? How did Anonymous and Lulzsec find out that it was him? Did they find out that the indictments come out and his name was there, or did somebody figure it out?
I'm curious to find out the details of that myself. I'm not exactly sure. I found out about it, one morning when I checked the news wires, and it was all public information that Sabu was cooperating as an informant. And once it hit Gawker magazine and the regular mainstream media articles, and people who aren't even into computers are telling me about it before I've heard about it, because I haven't checked the news that day, then there's something was up. There's a big press release for that day. Like, there was intentionally somebody wanted it to be known that he was an informant.
I'm not exactly sure how that came out, but my guess is it was just.
So the media are the people that said this guy Sabu. So when it was announced to everybody, it wasn't already public knowledge to Anonymous. They found out via the media.
I'm not exactly sure how that Anonymous knew about it before the media knew about it. My guess is that the media knew about it first because I was hearing about it when just waking up one morning and reading some text messages saying, guess what? It's like about Anonymous on blogs, and these are just people who aren't even into the hacking scene. They're not even into computers. They're just standard secretaries at offices and stuff.
From what I saw, people were caught off guard too, because when I looked at it and I saw the response on Twitter and stuff, there were people like big anonymous accounts that were Twitter accounts that supposedly were operated by Anonymous. You follow them, they would give the tales of Anonymous's exploits on a day-by-day basis, and even some of them were caught off guard. So you could see that it obviously, that's a good point. I didn't realize that I had assumed that I figured that Anonymous had. See, we should never assume anything, and I did just that. I had assumed that these guys were just smart enough and figured out that they had been infiltrated and cracked it. But if the media leaked it, that just reeks of now they're setting this guy up. And I said to my wife, I had this conversation with her earlier. I said, this guy, that setting him up like that he could get killed for the.
This wouldn't be there's already been death threats on his life, and it wouldn't be the first time that the federal government has leaked the identity of an informant to the media, especially in hacker cases. They did the same thing with the Soup Nazi, the Heartland payment system, and TJ Maxx hacker. He was acting as an informant and working for the Secret Service, pulling an $80,000 a year paycheck from the Secret Service to to inform on other credit card fraud hackers, and he ended up once the Secret Service found out he was double dealing, they arrested him, and he was all over the papers as well, being identified as an informant through Wired magazine.
And now they're saying this guy was involved in drug dealing or something like that too. Sabu, I think he was. They're trying to link him to drug dealing and stuff like that. That's what the media was today, anyway. I don't know.
Oh, I haven't even seen that yet. I'm curious to see what that's about.
Well, you see, this fits the pattern with what you just talked about. How it's like this playbook they play from, and they're setting this guy up again. Obviously, just like we talked about.
So they did the same. They actually made the same allegations about Soup Nazi as well. So they're going. They're following a flow chart, it seems.
And we talked about this, how they're going to blame some innocent not saying that the person's innocent. Maybe they were a hacker or whatever, but the person's not Osama bin Laden. Although bin Laden, that whole bad example, because that whole identity and everything we know that's controlled. Let's say he's not the monster in the closet. He's not this boogeyman that he's going to be made out to be. He's just some average human being who knows computers and knows hacking, and he happens to have gotten involved in it. And the government steered him towards it, just like they do with these guys like the underwear bomber and all this other stuff. Except in those cases, when they actually pull an attack like that, they need someone that's mentally retarded. And in this case, they can't fool a hacker into doing something like that, so they fool them into doing something else. And we got about a minute and a half left here, but interesting. In the last time you were on, we talked about predictive programming and stuff. And did you notice that back in the 90s, when all these hack movies were coming out, and you had talked about this with the SCADA attacks and all this other stuff, did you notice it was always the scapegoats were the hackers in a lot of these movies, where somehow there was hacking involved, whether it was a central theme or a side theme, and it was always hackers were bad, and eventually they caused some sort of cataclysmic event. And it's like putting that idea into people's heads so that 10, 15 years in the future, if you need to use it, you can use it and you can access that and say, hey, look, they're very bad people. They look what they did. They attacked us. Same thing with they did with the Muslims leading up to 9/11. Same thing throughout the 80s. You had the Muslim, the Arab terrorists, and everything else, and then boom, 9/11 happens. Well, hackers, same thing, vilified in the media, vilified in movies and in television programs, and then Anonymous comes around, and then the media plays with that. And I don't think Anonymous was started as a bad thing. A lot of people think it was started as a CIA op. I don't think it was started as that. I think it's gotten infiltrated, obviously. I mean, it has been. But we called it 6 months ago.
The concept of it can be a very positive thing. It is a very positive thing, but it's also very easy to infiltrate.
Yeah, but it's prone to be infiltrated. Look at it's an open organization, and you called it. We called it here. You've said multiple times that they were probably going to be in your estimation. You said it was only a matter of time before something happened, and people are going to get burned, and you're going to find out that they were infiltrated by the feds, whether it be FBI or CIA. But I don't think they would publicly admit that the CIA, especially after that whole NYPD debacle where it came out a couple months ago that there had been a CIA.
My guess is it's State Department in the early days, and then turned over to the FBI for the wrap up.
So you think the State Department has it from the beginning, and then the FBI?
They were involved during the Arab Spring thing. They had to have been, otherwise.
No, very true. The State Department does know how to build up all these events and everything. All right, we're going to get cut off. Winston, thank you for coming on and hacking into the Matrix from out in the middle of nowhere again to join us. We look forward to your next visit. And ladies and gentlemen, stay tuned for hour number 2. Ladies and gentlemen, we are back with hour number 2 here on tonight's edition of Down the Rabbit Hole. It is March 9th, 2012. I'm your host, Popeye, from federaljack.com. Thank you for tuning in. And I want to say thank you to the listeners for hanging out during the first hour. I know sometimes talking to Winston, the audio can be a little in and out because he's on a cell phone, but his information is always on point, and it's important to be able to talk to him, and he is literally out in the middle of nowhere, and he literally has to hack into the Matrix to talk to us. So I'm glad that I was able to get him on again, and you guys were able to hear what he had to say. All right, I want to get into a few other things now, getting off the anonymous cyber war versus FBI Lulzsec thing. I want to get off that. I want to get into a few other things. One of them I talked about last night when I was covering the Bob Tuscan show. For those of you that don't know, I sat in for Bob on his show 3 days this week. One night with Joe Joseph and 2 solo. And I'll eventually I'll have the archives and I'll render them and put them up on my YouTube channel. In case anybody wants to go check it out, the YouTube channel is DTRH Delta Tango. Excuse me, DT. I can't remember now. Down the rabbit hole. Yeah, DTRH Delta Tango Romeo Hotel Radio Archives, all one word. So Delta Tango Romeo Hotel. Delta Tango Romeo Hotel. DTRH Radio Archives, all one word, on YouTube. And that's where all the new stuff goes. The older stuff is being transferred there slowly because I don't want to just fill it all at once. There are other channels that have the older stuff, like Federal Jack Tube 6. So eventually it'll be a complete archive filled with everything, but I try to not slam it with older stuff because I do upload the newer stuff in spurts as well. So all the new shows go there. Anytime I do a guest spot on someone's show and I get the archive, I put it up there. Go check it out. Anyway, on Bob's show yesterday, I covered rape in the military. Very serious, tough subject to get into. Something that not many people like to talk about, but as you all know, ladies and gentlemen, and that's why you listen to me, I discuss things that other people don't want to talk about, which that's fine. I don't mind being the person that has to be the bearer of bad news, and sometimes I get looks of disdain, you know what I mean? I get people that don't like what I talk about. I get bitched at for it. It's cool. Somebody has to play that part and be able to suck it up and not be a or actually I don't even suck it up. It just bounces off me because I don't let it affect me. So I'm a good person to be able to be in that position because I don't get personally offended by people getting mad at me when I try to tell them things that they don't like to hear. It doesn't bother me at all. I don't get all crybaby-ish about it. So I don't mind being in that position. And rape in the military puts you in that position. Discussing it puts you in that position. The poor men and women, more women obviously than men, but many men too, who suffer this, they have nobody to defend them. Nobody. None. Nobody at all. Who do they have? They go to their command, they get in trouble, they get written up, and the archive will be up, or you can go just pull the archive from Bob's show and go listen to it from yesterday, and which was the 8th of March. And you'll hear some of the stories of the women, and I even played a couple clips where you heard multiple people, including a guy, give a little quick take on what happened to them, but it was just very quick and barely got into any details because I couldn't fit it all in the 2 hours. Some of the stuff was detailed, but not everything. Anyway, the subject of rape in the military is like one of these most taboo subjects I've ever had the I don't want to say, how can I put this? I've ever had I don't want to say disgust, but I don't even know how to describe it. It's so filthy. It really is. It's one of the most evil things, I guess, I've had to bring out, because when you see what it does to a human being, murder is horrible, but rape is, it's so horrible because I've seen what it does to a person personally. I know a few people in my life that throughout their life, at one point or another, they had been sexually assaulted. And I see what it does to somebody, how it damages them psychologically. And physically, whatever they suffer physically, too. I'm not saying that doesn't happen as well. But it is just so horrible. And then to know the levels that it happens in the military, where a woman doesn't have the chances of it just happening once. She has a chance of it happening multiple times. Guys have a chance of it happening once or twice, depending on if you're tough or not, or if you can, if you can fend off your attacker, or whatever the deal is. The one guy I played audio from, he got clocked in the back of the head while he was outside the chow hall, and then he came to, and there was two guys raping him, and he tried fighting him off. But, he was already halfway out of it, and they kept hitting him and everything else. And it goes into detail. It's just, this happens a lot, more than you would think. Congressman Jackie Speier went on the floor of the Congress, and she said, she quoted Pentagon Statistics, and it was, I don't remember the exact number, was over 19,000, but we'll round it down to 19 because it was above it. So 19,000 rapes a year, and that's what's reported. Because the only way the Pentagon's obviously going to get a statistic is if it's from something that's reported, whether the person got discharged or they just reported it and then went on and the military never did anything. It's still, it's there. But what about the ones that aren't reported? How do they know about those? Because obviously if they've never talked about it, you don't know about those, do you? What about the people that, quote unquote, committed suicide? Whether it be a fake suicide, like the death of Private LaVena Johnson, where they found her, obviously she was killed and then it was staged to look like a suicide, or whether it was a real suicide. Because maybe the person experienced a rape and it was so traumatic to that person and they felt so alone and so trapped. Because, see, civilians can't understand. Someone that's been deployed before can understand this. When you're on a deployment, no matter if it's on a ship, out in the middle of the desert, whatever, if you're on a long deployment, you can feel trapped, pulled away from, detached from everything. And if you get depressed, if depression or any of that kind of those thoughts leak in and you don't have a good support system, which in the military a lot of times you get hazing and stuff, so people pick on each other. And if you're the low man on the totem pole, you'll see people, I know a kid I went to boot camp with, he was like that. He ended up hanging himself like 6 months after we graduated because he was that guy that attracted that attention. And people would pick on him and stuff, and he had a lot on his plate. He couldn't deal with it. And so a lot of these suicides, how many of them are men or women? How many of them are women that were raped? How many of these guys took part in the rapes, and they can't deal with it? They realize what kind of a monster that they became at that period of time. Remember, I told you what happens when you embrace the dark side. And they feel bad. I'm not saying that's why all of them. Most of it is because of the stuff that they were forced to do in other countries. But they could have raped a woman over there. They could have raped a little girl over there. Who knows? They could have raped somebody here. You don't know. Rape in the military is very rampant, and it's actually an epidemic, I would call it, because it's getting out of control. It's just. And a lot of it, there's a lot to it. It's not one simple factor, ladies and gentlemen, that you can point to. A lot of it, think about combat tours, 5, 6, 7 tours. That stress, and I'm not justifying it. There is no justification for rape. If you're a guy and you rape a woman, you're a pussy, and I have no respect for you whatsoever, and you should be hung from the nearest yardarm. But these social engineering douchebags that run things, they understand what multiple combat tours and that kind of stress and everything else does to the human psyche. They just don't care that they're creating little monsters. They don't care. All right, we're going to break, ladies and gentlemen. We'll be right back. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are back. I'm going to play you a little clip that I played last night about Private LaVena Johnson. It's only a few minutes long. To the listeners that heard it last night, if you don't want to hear it again, feel free to turn it down. But I'll sit and scream it, from bullhorns as many times as I have to, for even if I only get one new person introduced to it. It's important that everybody find out about these instances of rape, and LaVena Johnson's case is something that I feel needs to have spotlight brought back on it, because I don't know if they've ever actually figured it out. If they might have, but from what I can tell, they still haven't figured out exactly who did it. I know that there was somebody at different people, different blogs, different reports, alternative news media, investigative reports had said that there's links or evidence that it was a Blackwater agent, which is just, anybody with half a brain can listen to what happened, and you could tell that's pretty much probably what happened, was that a private contractor did it. But let me play the clip for you. It's from a local news station, and this was about 2007, and this was 2 years after the fact already. So she was killed, and I think it was 2005 when she was killed. But this is a news story about Private LaVena Johnson, who now actually was posthumously promoted to private first class, so we should call her by what she is now. So let's call her Private First Class LaVena Johnson. Here's a little bit about her story.
LaVena Johnson is clouded in controversy and allegations of a cover-up. News 4's Matt Cessny was there as investigators exhumed the body of Private Johnson and conducted a new autopsy.
For almost 2 years, Private LaVena Johnson's body has been at Jefferson Barracks Cemetery. Her family, believing some secret about her death, is still there, waiting to be found.
I'm not going to stop until my daughter's name's cleared.
It was an April morning when workers exhumed Johnson's casket at Jefferson Barracks to continue the search for answers. Answers different from the ones Johnson's family has been getting from the military. 19-year-old LaVena died in July of 2005 at a base in Iraq. The Army determining Johnson killed herself with a single gunshot. But the more they looked into her death, the more doubts that were raised. Military documents showing her state of mind is happy and healthy. No bullet found in the tent where she died. A possible trail of blood near the tent. And evidence that someone tried to set the tent on fire.
But you come to my front door and you make a serious allegation about my daughter, and that put me on alert that something was wrong.
So they said that she killed herself. So she smashed herself in the face, broke her own nose, hit herself so hard that she knocked her own teeth back. You know how hard you have to do that? You know how painful it is? It's not easy to do to yourself, okay? You'd really have to, like, be masochistic or messed up in the head to be able to pull that off. So, smashes her own face in so hard she breaks her own nose, pushes her teeth back, bruises, I guess slight lacerations to her body, shoots herself in the head with her gun while she's on the ground, shoots herself in the head with a gun that's next to her, positioned next to her perfectly. And I guess after she shoots herself in the head, she's not dead yet, and decides to try to light her tent on fire. And I may add, I don't know, I don't remember if they said it yet, but you'll hear it. Somebody poured lye into her vagina. Now, why would they do that? Because it would cover up the semen and any other epithelial cells that the guy might have shedded during the he might have shed during the attack. So to destroy the DNA evidence, you'd put the lye in there. It would completely destroy everything. And there were cuts to her vagina as well, post-mortem. So what do you call it? Genital mutilation. But she did this to herself. She committed suicide. Remember, that's what the Army said. She committed suicide.
And so I just made a determination that me and my family was going to work until we found out what that was.
And their determination led them to this, a single salute from her father, himself a veteran, and then Johnson's body taken to a private autopsy. An autopsy News 4's camera was permitted to view.
Johnson LaVena L.
St. Louis Chief Medical Examiner Dr. Michael Graham led the autopsy along with St. Louis County Medical Examiner Dr. Mary Case. The team spending 3 hours examining Johnson's body, taking samples, photographs, and using their forensic skills to look for any clues.
And then there's some discoloration right along here on it. Okay, got it? Okay.
At least for now, experts are calling the results inconclusive and are looking for more information on Johnson's weapon, fueling new speculation whether it could have been used in her death. It is all part of the family's search to try and find out what happened. And the message is now reaching to Congress, with support coming from the House and Senate.
We've got to find the truth about what happened to this young lady. Her family deserves that at a minimum. And we need to know in terms of keeping the armed services accountable.
The story of Johnson's suicide doesn't add up to her friends in North St. Louis County, who describe a 19-year-old who seemed happy to be in the military.
She was very optimistic about, the whole military experience and going off to college, and no.
And so therefore you believe there's something more to the story than I guess.
Absolutely, there is. Because the person that they're describing, that's not the LaVena that I know.
It is a mystery that for now still is a mystery.
We're a strong family, we're a close family, and that's helped a lot.
Do you feel like you're getting closer to the truth?
Absolutely. I do.
As painful as the exhumation was, the Johnson family believes it was necessary and will continue to stay in contact with the Johnson family on final results of the private autopsy. Also, members of a House committee, including Congressman Lacy Clay, are waiting on a request for the Pentagon to hand over all the documents, photos, and names in the Johnson investigation in Iraq. So this is a story we continue to follow. Matt Cesney, News 4, St. Louis.
There you go, ladies and gentlemen. Now that's just a little bit on the story of PFC LaVena Johnson. Now, what I would like you to do is take this information and run with it. Do some homework. Do some research. Put a video together. I know there's some pretty good video editors out there that listen to my show. Even if you're not pretty good, learn. You can do it. I taught myself all this stuff. Over the course of the past 4 years, I taught myself how to be, like the basics of web design, how to run a site like Federal Jack, how to build it and make it what it is today, how to do this radio show, how to do video editing, how to do basic graphic design that I needed for myself. I didn't know any of this. I didn't go to school for any of this. I learned it. I taught myself. I went and figured out how to do it. It's not that hard. Any of us can do it. So go out there, and I want you guys to put a video together and do me the favor, okay? If not anybody else, do me the favor, okay? If not PFC LaVena Johnson, and just put a video together with some updated information about her case, regardless if it's good or bad, because this hasn't been updated in years, and nobody, I guess, it kind of fell by the wayside, cold case, I guess, and nobody really knows anything. And I would investigate it myself, but I don't have time. So if somebody goes, I'll even sweeten the pot. If somebody goes to the length of putting together something really informative and you upload it to your YouTube channel, no matter how long it is, send me the link and I'll make a whole page about it. And, we can write an article, we'll do something special, and I'll hook you up with a federaljack.com t-shirt. I don't have many extra larges left. I only have a few, but I have a bunch of larges and mediums and some only a few smalls left. If you're anywhere near the chat room, look in the chat. I'll drop the pictures in again. But in the beginning of the show, there were 2 pictures in there, front and back of the T-shirts. Or you can go to our fan page on Facebook, Fed Jack, F-E-D space J-A-C-K, Fed Jack. Look up the fan page. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are back. And I'm serious about what I said. I'm completely dead serious. You may put together a good video. You can use the old footage and stuff, like I said, because if you have an account that you can upload over 15 minutes, just upload it to your accounts. Shoot me a link, whatever. If you have a description, whatever, we could work on an article together. We'll make it go viral. We'll get it a ton of exposure. And if you really put some effort into it and we help try to at least update this girl's story at the very least, if not, maybe we could try to bring her some justice. And I should actually call her a soldier and give her the respect she's due. But if we can try to, if the justice was brought to her and we can bring that to the public, that's fine. If we can just update the story, or if somebody out there actually has something real, if they're, I doubt that they would send me breaking information. But even if you did, if you knew something, you could always send us that. And, if you wanted to talk about it or whatever. Anyway, if you make a good video and you put updated information as to what happened, not only will I publicize it, but, we'll talk off air, obviously, and I will send you a free federaljack.com t-shirt for your efforts and for doing this. And if you actually go above and beyond with the depth of your research, I guess, and you, depending on what you find out, we can even maybe make a show out of it, or half a show, maybe come on for a half hour or an hour, and you'd even be able to plug your own YouTube channel and stuff. So if you're an independent researcher, this is a serious, serious call to action. I don't have the time to do it. I run Federal Jack myself. I do all my own production work with the radio show. I just don't have the time, ladies and gentlemen. I can't do everything myself. And it's hard to get somebody to try to be your assistant for free. I've tried for the past 2 years. And it's really hard to get people that are serious. I have over 6,000 subscribers to on our fan page, and I'll get 2 or 3 people that are serious about helping out when I put a call to action. Hey, we need this, we need that. It's really hard, and I'm not ragging on anybody. I know times are tough for everybody. So the independent researchers that are out there, do me the favor. Do her the honor. Let's try to, at the very least, bring her story to shed some more light on it and at least update it, at the very least, if that's all we can do. If justice was brought and we can expose the person that did it and the guy's still alive, personally, I think it was probably a Blackwater or whatever, Triple Canopy, whatever the hell other contractor they had over there, probably a private contractor, and more than likely, he might still be alive. 50-50 chance, I'd say, still being alive after, the amount of war that's been going on. And if he was a private contractor, maybe maybe karma came around and he got hit by an IED or something in the road. You'll never know the names or the numbers of the contractors killed in Afghanistan or Iraq. So, and I'm not saying all of them are bad, but I'm just saying hopefully, I won't say hopefully because that's wrong to wish ill on people. But we'll say perhaps karma came and bit this guy in the ass, and maybe he got hit by something by the Taliban or whoever. But if we can at least update her story and put a good video together about it, getting her information out there and telling her story, let's at least shed some light on it at the very least, if nothing else. And I'm not rich. I'm not Alex Jones, so I can't give you guys like $1,000 for making videos and stuff like that. And I'm not asking for any promotion of myself either. You don't have to put, Popeye, Down the Rabbit Hole, Federal Jack, none of that. You don't have to mention Orion Talk Radio in there. This is about her. This isn't about me. But I can afford to give you a T-shirt. I mean, it's not much, but it's all I have, so take it or leave it. Anyway, run with it. There's thousands of you that listen to the broadcast weekly. So take the idea and run with it, please. We need more people to step up. When you see, myself doing things or Bob Tuscan doing things, we do this stuff to try to, make you guys want to do more. We want you guys to get involved more. I mean, it's cool if you can't get involved and, for instance, you want to donate money. Fine, donate $20 to the website, to Orion Talk Radio. You donate $20 or more, Jimmy will hook you up with a free Orion Talk Radio T-shirt. He said it 100 times. If that's all you can do, then fine. Then you still get something out of it. You get a T-shirt. But try to do more than that. Don't let that be your all. That's all you do. Try to take an example. Use me as an example, or use Bob Tuscan, or Joe Joseph, or Ken, or anybody else. Use them as an example. Look at Ken. He's a perfect example. He's never done radio in his life ever. He's just a blue-collar guy, retired Marine. He's pissed off. He doesn't like what's going on. And he's got something to say about it. And he gets up, he gets together, he gets the week's worth of information, he preps for his show, and he does a good job. He doesn't get paid for what he does. You think Joe Joseph gets paid for doing a radio show 3 days a week? Joe's got a full-time job, plus he's got children and a wife, and he does a show. Do you think he gets paid for that? No. You think any of us get paid? You think Tuscan gets paid for his 5 days a week that he does? None of us get paid. You're not going to make money doing this. If you try to get in this for fame and fortune, you're in it for the wrong reasons, dude. Just totally wrong reasons. You need to get up and get active. You need to make a YouTube channel. If that's how you start, go out and videotape stuff. Start making videos. Learn how to use basic video editing software. Let's use the internet to our advantage while we still have it. Twitter. I'm telling you, ladies and gentlemen, every day I find Twitter is more and more useful for me as a tool. I use it all the time to send out links, and every day I notice more and more we get exponentially more followers, and I get more and more retweets every day. I've noticed it for months now. Twitter is a perfect tool to spread information. People will pick you up if they want to. It's like putting out the fishing line. If people want to take it, they'll run with it. Look, people realize something's up. Inherently, everybody can sense it, even the brain dead. But they just end up running to the mainstream media, and the mainstream media feeds them the it's okay, it's okay, it's okay. And because they're not taught as children to use any type of critical thinking, they fall right back into okay. But inside, they can feel it. Their souls can feel it. So do something to wake these people up. Do something to at least get the message out there. Start at a grassroots level. Is there corruption in your local city council? Make a video about it. Get up and do something. Write a frickin' blog. Well, I'll never get any attention. Do you realize I got over 1 million hits in less than a year last year on federaljack.com? And why do I say that? I'm not bragging. I say that because I don't have any corporate advertising. I did all that myself through Facebook and Twitter. Now, if I can do that while having multiple surgeries to repair myself so I can get back to some semblance of like 100%, there's no excuse why any of you out there can't do it. None whatsoever. There is no excuse. I don't want to hear it. Everybody out there can make a difference. Every one of you that says, oh, I can't make a difference, what can I do? Bullshit. You can make a difference. Who knows? You could be the one that wakes somebody up that maybe, say you put a video together for LaVena Johnson, okay? and this video goes super, super viral, and somebody happens to see it, and they say, it's not solved yet, right? It's still unsolved, and they see it, and they say, oh, I saw this video. It was incredible. I have information about her. I want to come forward, and it leads to, someone getting arrested and incarcerated or swinging from a gallows, which is what should really happen if the guy's still alive. But I digress. Honestly, the chances of that happening are obviously, minute. The point is, you can make a difference. You never know. How many movie makers have I had on where the pre-orders and the people donating money are what caused their first movie to be created? Michael Murphy, What in the World Are They Spraying? Completely funded, created by them, but completely funded by donations from outside people. People that want the truth to get out. Completely funded by donations, $100 here, $50 there, $200 there, things like that. That's how we're going to make a difference, ladies and gentlemen. That's how we're going to win this. Everybody needs to get pissed off, stand up, and do something. That's why I come on this radio show and try to get you guys riled up by showing you the dark, evil things that go on, so you can see the level that we're at. All right, we're going to break. Stay tuned. We will be right back. Ladies and gentlemen, we are back. Final segment of tonight's episode of Down the Rabbit Hole. I want to thank all the listeners that tune in every Wednesday, Friday, and Sunday. You guys make the show possible. You guys drive me to want to bring more and more stuff. Maybe they haven't heard this, or if they have heard this, let's bring them the latest information. So you guys are a large part of the driving force behind why all of us do this, not just me. I'm not trying to just, me. All of us, Joe, Bob, all of us. If, we'd be talking to a dead air and a brick wall if none of you were listening. So I want to say thank you and give yourselves a round of applause, because you guys are part of this info war. You are part of this army of truth and light, and we will beat these douchebags back into hell where they belong, and then we'll zip it up nice and tight and, maybe put some dirt over top of it and build a monument or something, or use it for a public urinal, whatever the case may be. There's something I want to remind you guys of. A lot of people are afraid to get involved because they say, well, I just don't know, and, they get all anxious, and at a base level, it's fear. For whatever reason, one way or another, it's fear. And I want to remind people, I want to remind them of the best way I know on how to get through that and deal with it. I want to stand up, but I'm afraid. Okay. Well, as many of my listeners know, for the new ones who maybe have never heard this, I have a little ditty that I like to recite, and I've actually got it tattooed on myself. It's called The Litany Against Fear. It was written by Frank Herbert back in 1965 in his Dune series. And you could, it's from a fictional book, whatever. It's something that I find to this day, perhaps he was trying to tell us something, because I find to this day it helps bring the blood pressure down, and it helps, it's almost like doing the Om prayer. But if you can remember this, you will be able to master your fear. See, any Marine or soldier or sailor or airman or Coast Guardsman who's ever been in a sticky situation or had to face fear one way or another, whether it be incoming fire, rescuing somebody in a hurricane, whatever the case may be, if you've had to face fear, you understand that there is no way of turning fear off. It's not like a light switch, you can turn it on or off. Fear is fear. It's going to be there. It is partially an emotional response to a chemical, an emotional and a chemical response. It's combined. You have, the emotions, and you have the adrenaline and everything else chemical-wise flowing through you. So it is a combination of the two. It is like like I said, an emotional and a chemical response. And you will never be able to get rid of it. You'll never be able to stop it. You can't make fear go away. What you can do is you can master your fear. See, the difference between a coward and a hero is the hero was braver for about another minute and a half longer than the guy that is called a coward, okay? and I murdered the original quote there. I'm paraphrasing a little bit, but it's mastering your fear, ladies and gentlemen. It's not letting it take it over you and take control of you. It's about you putting your fear in check and saying, I understand it's an emotional response. Breathe in, breathe out. I will put it in the back burner. I have to think, and I have to use my brain and act logically and not on emotion. And that's hard to do. So I'm going to give you something that you can carry with you through your days, and no matter what, fighting the New World Order, standing up to a bully, you maybe teach this to your kid if he's got a bully. He's got to stand up to the bully. Maybe he can recite this, and this will give your kid courage, okay? You never know the impact you can have. That's why I like to give this out to people. It's called the Litany Against Fear. Here we go. I must not fear. Fear is the mind killer. Fear is the little death that brings total obliteration. I will face my fear. I will permit it to pass over me and through me. And when it has gone past, I will turn the inner eye to see its path. Where the fear has gone, there will be nothing. Only I will remain. That's deep, ladies and gentlemen. Recite it over and over again. If you want, I'll do it one more time for you. Let me clear my throat. I'll do it one more time for you, just so you can hear it. Turn your speakers up and try to recite it with me. You can look it up, just Scroogle, Yahoo, whatever you want to, if you don't want to use Google, whatever search engine. Look up the Litany Against Fear, and you can recite it with me. You ready? One more time. Turn your speakers up nice and loud, wherever you are. You ready? I must not fear. Fear is the mind killer. Fear is the little death that brings total obliteration. I will face my fear. I will permit it to pass over me and through me. And when it has gone past, I will turn the inner eye to see its path. Where the fear has gone, there will be nothing. Only I will remain. Now, if that doesn't get your blood fired up, if that doesn't get you ready to take on, the hordes of hell, I don't know what will. You got to stop living in fear. Homework. I want everybody to think of something that they've been afraid to do their whole lives. Nothing drastic, okay? Let's start off small. Think of something simple, on the scale of, simple to drastic in your life. Take some time and think about something that you've been afraid to do. And I want you all to try to overcome that fear. Maybe it's a fear of elevators. Go to a 2-story building. But Popeye, what happens if the elevator cable snaps? There is no elevator cable. Usually in buildings under 10 stories, it's piston. If there was a problem, it would come down like... The worst case, you'd be trapped in the elevator for a little while. Sitting there getting a little hot and sweaty. That's the worst case. Big, tall buildings, they use elevators with cables, but shorter buildings, they don't. They have pistons. Do your research. See? Right there. There's not much to fear. You build stuff up in your head. We all do it. You build stuff up in your head and you make it so monumental. I can't do it. I can't take it on. What do I do? It's just too much. No, it's not too much. You can do it. Breathe in. Breathe out. Look at the situation logically. Relax. Don't allow your fear to take over you. Repeat the litany against fear as many times as you have to. And look at it and say, man, what? Wow. Because when you look at it without the goggles of fear, you're going to see it completely differently. It's not going to be so big and scary. It's going to be like, wow, I was scared of that. It's going to go from this huge mountain with cliffs and, all sorts of mystical monsters and everything all over the top of it to some little anthill. That's what fear does to you. So shed the fear. Obviously, you've got nothing to fear left, right? They tell you that it doesn't matter. They can kill citizens here in the United States. They can kill them, anywhere pretty much. They can, and it's not like they can you're out in the middle of the desert. You're driving down the street with your family in the car, and they whack your car. So they've already put their cards on the table. They want you to be afraid. They want you to be so scared of them that you won't get out of line. I was talking to a friend of mine on the cell phone the other day, and he was talking about Osama bin Laden, and he called Osama Obama, and he was so afraid when he made the comment on the phone. Oh my God, I hope. I said to him, dude, you realize you just assume that they're listening, and you're afraid to say stuff. Well, you never know. I said it was a slip-up. People do it all the time on the air. What's on television? The names, they had to know that was going to happen, so, no biggie. But he was so afraid, he freaked out. What do I do? Stop living in fear, ladies and gentlemen. Stop it. Be Neo. You need a visual? Be Neo in the end of the Matrix. I say this all the time. You see those agents at the end of the hallway. He stands up after they thought they killed him. And they turn around and they raise their big, scary guns and they fire their bullets. And he puts his hand up and he says, no. That, obviously, you can't stop real bullets with your hand. But that is like an allegory for your true power that you hold inside of you. And that you have to say, enough is enough is enough is enough is enough. It's time to say that you've had it and that you're over this. I don't know about you, but I know I'm done with it. I don't fear these douchebags, and you shouldn't either. Now rise up, get mad, get angry, and get involved. Let's take our friggin' country back. Let's, hold these people accountable, swing them from yard arms, and move on. And let's, bring the human race to what it should be. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in. Make sure you tune in Sunday. I promise I have an interesting show for you.